Okay, so now that we've got this hooked up, let's go ahead and actually submit some data to an endpoint and set up a proper request to verify password, things like that, so that they can move forward and actually complete this. Okay. So first thing we're going to do here, we're going to go to the update email component. I'm going to get rid of these ones here as well. I don't really need them right now, so user account controller. We'll leave that. Get rid of web.php. And down in here, let's create an Axios request to actually send this data across. So we're going to go data, accounts, updates, email. Then we have to specify the actual username. So it'll be this .user.id. And the data we need to send across, first of all, is we need to spoof our post method to be put. Be a put method because we're updating something, so we'll follow that standard practice. And we need to send across email, which will be this.data.email, and then we also need to send across password, and that'll be this.data.password. Great, so we're good enough there. Let's go ahead and make sure that we actually reach that endpoint by console logging response.data. Okay. Now, data, accounts, updates, email. So let's go to data. We have accounts. We're going to have to create another group here. We'll say updates slash, how should we do that? Yeah, prefix updates. Okay. Namespace, we'll give it its own namespace of updates. And then it's going to be group function route put is going to be email, and then we need to send the user across there. Okay. Now let's say email updates controller at update. Okay, so now we need to go ahead. We actually need to create this controller. So we'll go PHP artisan make controller. And that needs to be data / accounts / updates / email updates controller. Okay, let's go ahead and find our email updates controller. Create a method called public function update. In here, we're going to create a special request for this one. In the meantime, I'm just going to send across request, and we're going to verify that we've actually reached the endpoint. So we'll return, all right, here I am. And let's make sure that we bring in the user namespace, perfect. And let's go ahead back to here. I'm going to click refresh. We'll go update email. Here I am. Okay, great. So we've reached our endpoint. That's fantastic. Now what we're going to need to do is create a little bit of custom middleware in this case. So we'll say public function. So we're going to put this in the constructor. And we'll say this middleware, and we'll pass a callback function in there, and we'll have to put our request object and next in there. So first things first, we have the password coming across, so we need to make sure, actually, you know what, let's do it this way. I'm not going to put it in the controller. I'm going to put it in its own piece, in its own request. So let's do update user email request. So let's go ahead, let's create that request. So PHP artisan make request update user email request. Perfect. Okay. Let's actually, we'll bring in that namespace here. So import the class. That's what that looks like up there. And let's go visit this one. Okay. So we're going to either they're going to be an administrator, in which case we're going to return true. So we'll say if this how do we want to do this? We'll say if auth, I'll bring in that namespace, user, right, is admin, then we're going to return true in this case. Otherwise, we'll say if we need to pull out, compare the incoming password with the password of the user. So, very simple, we can do a little hash check. So we need to bring that class in as well. And we're going to go check. And I do believe we need to bring in the whatever our string is that we pass through in the request. So in this case, because we're in the request object, it's this dash password. And then that's going to get checked against auth user password. So if that passes as true, then we can return true. Otherwise, it will return false in here. We also want to do one other thing here, actually. We want to make sure that auth ID equals this dash route user. And we want both of those to test positive, right? So has to be the same password that matches what the user has for a password. And the authenticated user's ID must match the ID on the route. Okay, if that's the case, we're going to pass across true. Otherwise, we're going to pass across false. Now, the only piece of data that we need to validate from here on is going to be the email. And really, I mean, we have to do required. Okay, that's a given. But we also need to make sure this email is going to be unique within the users table. All right, perfect. Email updates controller. What we'll now return is request validated. Okay, perfect. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at this user's profile. Let's go update. And actually, sorry, one other little change we're going to make here before we move forward. Update email. I also want to catch the errors. Okay, so errors. I want to console.dir errors. Okay, so we can see what's coming through if this doesn't work as it should work. Okay, let's go like that. Come back here. We'll update. So Tyson at modcall.com is the email address. I'm just going to say edited. I know that email address isn't in there right now, so that's fine. And then we'll say I'm going to send along the wrong password. Okay, and it went through. So for changing the email. You know, I mean, in the system, we could actually set up something where the person has to be an admin in order, it has to refer to the admin. Okay, we'll assume there's only one admin on the system right now. We can add that in at a later time where only admins can't manage other admins' account. They can only manage their own unless we have like a super admin account. So that's kind of how that would break down there. So at any rate, it sends it across without issue. And let me see here. And so it doesn't really matter here what we enter in as a password, but we'll leave that alone. But assuming that it's a user actually sending it across, this should go as according to plan. I mean, you know, one other thing we could do actually is we have Tyson at modcall.com. We could Actually, you know what? Because this is coming through for managing your own user account, yes. I want to make sure that this applies. So all we need to do is cut this, put this in there, and then we should be good. Because we have to remember, the user management for changing the emails is already on the other table. It's already in the other component under the users menu. So this one, we're just managing our own. We're not looking to manage others on this route. So that's fine. This is perfectly fine the way it is. So let's double check this. Okay, good. 403 forbidden. So we know that we probably got the wrong password. So we'll just say you are not authorized. Please verify your password is correct. Is one thing that we could catch in there. But at any rate, we have this now returning data. We have the authentication set up, and we have the validation. As we saw here, the email comes through, and any errors that we need to come through as well do come through. So what we'll do in the next video is we'll actually display that validation there within an error within the component.